The moment unfolded quietly at first, the kind of small incident that usually goes unnoticed in the whirlwind of a grand slam. But within seconds, it turned into one of the most talked-about scenes of the Australian Open 2026. Jannik Sinner was walking toward the court ahead of his match against Hugo Gaston, focused, calm, headphones on, locked into that familiar pre-match rhythm. Then everything shifted when security suddenly stepped in front of a small group of children who had rushed forward, eyes wide with excitement, hopping for just a second with their hero. The kids weren't disruptive. They weren't aggressive. They were simply young fans, wearing oversized caps, clutching tennis balls and markers, hearts pounding at the thought of meeting one of the biggest stars in the sport. As they tried to move closer, security instinctively did their job, extending arms and blocking the path, ushering the children back with firm gestures. It was a routine move, the kind officials make dozens of times a day during a slam. But this time, Jannik Sinner noticed. He stopped. In a tournament where everything runs on strict schedules and tight margins, stopping is rare. Players are expected to keep moving, stay focused, avoid distractions. Yet Sinner slowed his steps, turned around and removed his headphones. His expression changed instantly, from pre-match intensity to concern and curiosity. He looked from the kids to the security staff, clearly trying to understand what was happening. For a brief second, there was tension. The kids froze, unsure if they had done something wrong. Security hesitated, caught between protocol and the presence of a world-class athlete clearly about to intervene. Then Sinner smiled. Not a quick, polite smile, but a warm, genuine one that immediately eased the moment. He gestured lightly with his hand, signaling to security that it was okay. The effect was immediate. The guards stepped back, their firm stance softening as Sinner waved the children forward himself. The kids couldn't believe it. You could see it on their faces, the shock, the joy, the disbelief that this wasn't a dream. One boy almost dropped his tennis ball in excitement. A young girl covered her mouth, eyes filling with tears as she stepped closer. Sinner crouched down to their level, making sure no one felt intimidated. He spoke to them calmly, asking their names, listening closely as they nervously stumbled through their words. There was no rush in his body language, no sign that he was thinking about the match starting soon. In that moment, it was as if the stadium, the cameras, and the pressure of a grand slam all faded away. He began signing autographs, carefully writing each name, taking his time. When one marker stopped working, he laughed softly and borrowed another. He posed for photos, making sure everyone fit into the frame, even adjusting his position so the kids wouldn't be hidden. At one point, he noticed a child standing slightly behind the others and gently waved him forward, refusing to let anyone be left out. What made the moment even more powerful was how natural it felt. There was no performance, no sense of doing it for attention. This wasn't a rehearsed PR move. It was instinctive kindness. Sinner didn't look toward the cameras. He didn't acknowledge the growing crowd watching the scene unfold. His focus stayed entirely on the kids in front of him. Parents watching from a short distance were visibly emotional. Some raised their phones with shaking hands, aware they were witnessing a memory their children would carry for life. Around them, fans began to whisper, then murmur, then openly react. The buzz spread quickly through the stands and along the walkways. "Look at Sinner," people said. "He stopped everything for them." Even security staff seemed moved. One guard was seen smiling, another nodding in quiet approval. The rigid boundary between player and crowd softened, replaced by a shared human moment. It was a reminder that behind the ranking, the trophies, and the global fame, there is still a person who remembers what it feels like to be a kid dreaming of meeting a tennis star. After a few minutes, Sinner gently signaled that he had to go. He thanked the kids for coming, wished them a great day, and gave a final wave as he stood up. Before putting his headphones back on, he turned once more to security, offering a small nod that felt like both gratitude and understanding. Then he walked toward the court, his stride steady, his focus returning, but something about him seemed lighter. The kids stood there stunned, clutching their autographs like priceless treasures. Some jumped up and down. Others just stared, replaying the moment in their minds. For them, the Australian Open wasn't just about watching tennis anymore. It had become personal. It had become magical. As Sinner later walked onto the court to face Hugo Gaston, the crowd response felt different. The applause was louder, warmer, filled with admiration that went beyond tennis. People weren't just cheering his forehands or his movement. They were cheering the person they had just witnessed, a player who understands that greatness isn't only measured by titles, but by moments of humanity. Social media exploded almost instantly. Clips of the incident spread everywhere, captioned with words like class, pure, and role model. Fans praised him not just as a champion, but as an example for the next generation. In a sport often criticized for its distance from fans, Sinner had bridged that gap in the simplest way possible, by caring. In the end, the match itself mattered, but for many, it became secondary to what happened before the first ball was even struck. Because long after the scoreline fades from memory, people will still remember the image of Jannik Sinner stopping in his tracks, choosing kindness over routine, and turning a small moment into something unforgettable.